In this video we're going to look at rotations. Now there's a couple of things that you need in order to actually do a rotation. You need to know how far to turn it, and that's called the angle that we rotate it by. You also need to know what point to turn it around, which we call the center of rotation, which we'll be looking at in these videos. So let's kick off with an example. Here's a shape on a grid, and I need to rotate shape A 90 degrees anti-clockwise around the point 1, 1. We're going to call the new shape B. Now anti-clockwise is very easy. It's just the opposite direction to which a normal clock would go, and clockwise being the normal direction. So this one is going to spin backwards, and it's going to spin round by 90 degrees. So to do this, I'm going to first of all start with a piece of tracing paper, which I put over my grid. I need to make sure that it covers a couple of things. It needs to cover the shape, it needs to cover the center of rotation, which we can see is 1, 1. So what I'm going to do now is just trace over shape A very carefully, and then I draw on my center of rotation at the point 1, 1. And I also put a little arrow at the top. This just helps me to see exactly when I've turned 90 degrees so that I'm not slightly off. Then I put my pencil on this center of rotation, and now I can pivot the tracing paper around this point. So I'm going to spin it around 90 degrees. This means that once I've done this rotation, everything ends up looking like this. Now all I do is I take away the tracing paper and draw on very carefully where my new shape appeared and label it shape B. Second example, different shape, different criteria for this one. So we're going to rotate shape A 180 degrees this time around the origin, and we're going to call a new shape B. The reason why it doesn't say clockwise or anti-clockwise is because when I do a 180 degree rotation, it doesn't matter. I'm going to end up facing the same way. I'm going to have turned the same amount. So tracing paper comes back in. Same as before, I'm going to trace around shape A. I need to draw on my center of rotation, which in this case is the origin, also known as the point 0, 0. And I put my little line in just to help me keep track of how much I've turned. Then I bring on my pencil and use this as my pivot point. So I'm going to spin my tracing paper around this point, and everything ends up looking like this. Again, same as before, I just need to very carefully lift up the tracing paper and draw my new shape underneath. Once I've done that, I can take everything away, and my shape has been rotated 180 degrees. Here's a couple of examples for you to have a practice on. Now, you may not be able to use these with tracing paper. What I'd suggest is if you've got some squared paper, copy the grid in, draw my shape A, and then try and do these rotations with a bit of tracing paper that you've borrowed from your maths teacher. You're going to rotate shape A and end up in 3 different positions based on the criteria. Pause the video here, hit play when you're ready to see the solutions. Okay, so when we rotate shape A 90 degrees clockwise around the origin, we get shape B in this position here. Going back to shape A, if I rotate it 180 degrees around a different center of rotation, I'm going to get shape C in this position, and back to shape A, a 90 degree anti-clockwise rotation around again a different center of rotation gives me shape D in this position here. Now there's a second video on rotations which I'd highly recommend you go and check out. Thanks for listening.